If you feel like you are doing everything in the relationship, you're initiating the conversations, you are planning all the dates, you are managing the emotional health of the relationship, trying to get your partner to step up, but they just don't seem like they're willing to, and you are feeling exhausted, well, this video is going to be for you. This pattern of interaction with your partner is sometimes called overfunctioning in relationships, and you see it all the time in couples that show up in my office in couples therapy. And that's because this pattern can be really nefarious. It feels to you like you are giving your all. You're giving 120% of the relationship. And the act of putting so much in feels like an act of love. But in reality, this pattern can lead to really negative consequences in a relationship where you are putting so much in, and the more you put in, the more your partner feels overwhelmed and pulls back. So in today's video, we're going to talk about what overfunctioning is, how it shows up in relationships, and how you can begin to take ownership of this pattern and work on changing it with your partner over time so you guys can have a more equal and fulfilling relationship. If you're new here, my name is Wes. I'm a couples therapist, and this channel is devoted to helping you improve your relationship so you can live a happier, more full life. Let's get into it. Overfunctioning means that you are taking responsibility for two people's emotional labor, not just your own, but your partner's as well. Some common signs of overfunctioning are you keep reminding your partner to work on themselves, but they just don't seem to. You keep pushing them to live up to their potential, but they don't seem willing or interested in doing the things that you suggest. And you aren't willing to accept who they are now. You overgive, hoping that they will give something back in return, but usually they don't, at least not to the standards that you want. And you take on tasks that they could easily do themselves, sometimes leading to you feeling totally overwhelmed in the relationship and feeling like I'm doing everything here. If you're the one who's always reminding your partner to go to therapy or sending them resources and trying to manage their personal growth, then you are probably overfunctioning. And even though this feels like love sometimes, it often ends in your partner feeling kind of micromanaged and eventually resentful. So where does this pattern come from? Well, like most things that show up in our adult relationships, it usually starts in childhood and in your family of origin. Maybe you had to be the good kid growing up, and you had to do this because you were managing your parents' emotions. You stayed quiet, you helped out, and you did what you needed to do because that's what your family needed. In family dynamics, everyone typically assumes a type of role in the family pattern. And for overfunctioners, typically you fall into the role where you're the good kid, the helper, because you have a parent who is unstable in some type of way. Maybe they're struggling, maybe they're reactive, but whatever it is, you know that it's your role to help manage their emotional state. And because of that, you tend to learn that love is earned. It's something that you work for, and you earn it by carrying the emotional weight of someone else, because that's how you got noticed in your family dynamic. You were the one who took care of others, and because of that, you were recognized, you were shown love by your family. So now as an adult, you might unconsciously choose partners who feel like they need fixing, which kind of allows you to keep playing into that old role that you did in your family dynamic. So why do you keep doing these patterns even if they're negative? Well, it's because it feels necessary to you. There's a fear that comes up in people who are overfunctioning that if you don't take on the emotional load of the relationship, you don't continue to work really hard at trying to improve your relationship and your partner, then it'll fall apart. And so you kind of feel like their emotional growth is necessary for you to feel emotionally safe in the relationship. But here's the thing, what's underneath that is typically anxiety. It's this need for control. Overfunctioning disguises itself as a way of caring for your partner, but really underneath, it's a way of feeling needed, of feeling in control, of feeling important. It helps you feel necessary in the relationship, but at the same time, it puts you into this parentified role. And that dynamic creates resentment for both of you, because the more you are acting like your partner's parent, the less you're acting like their partner. And nobody wants to be dating or married to their parent. And that creates a lot of resentment. The other partner starts to feel smothered. And because of that dynamic, they start to begin to pull away. Your partner often in this dynamic begins to feel inadequate. They feel like they can't do anything right for you. They feel like you're always upset with them, and they feel like they don't have any control of themselves in the relationship. This is a classic pursuer-distancer dynamic in relationships where you are pushing to try to get your partner to change, and your partner is pulling away because they feel overwhelmed, they feel smothered, they feel inadequate. And deep underneath all of that is usually a longing to feel close to you, but also a strong desire for independence and this kind of feeling of inadequacy. Like they're trying to do stuff, but they just can't seem to get it right for you. And that leads to a lot of negative feelings on both sides. You feel frustrated and like you're not being heard by them. Like you're asking, you're not getting what you need. And they feel like they've been trying, but they just can't seem to get it right. And so they feel deeply inadequate. And that leads to a lot of negativity on both sides. Okay, so what are we going to do about this? Maybe you're resonating with some of what I've said. You recognize that you could get stuck in this over-functioning dynamic and you want to fix things. Of course, here's what I usually recommend to my couples. And here's a plan in action to start off. First, run a 24-hour test. Okay, this is going to be a total break from over-functioning in the relationship. And this is going to be hard, I know, because it's not what you're used to. This means no managing your partner, no pushing for deep conversations, no emotional coaching. Just focus on the basics with them, just logistical communication only. Okay, doesn't mean that you need to pull back emotionally, but it does mean that you need to try to restrain yourself from the behaviors that are associated with that kind of overfunctioning dynamic just for 24 hours, okay? And you're just gonna wait and you're just gonna see how your partner responds. And hopefully your partner recognizes what's going on. Maybe they recognize the emotional distance that's being created. They recognize that something is kind of off. And so maybe they'll approach you about it and they'll say, hey, what's going on? I feel like things are a little bit off between us. Or maybe they will begin to step up and start doing the things that you want them to do. Give it 24 hours, sometimes 48 hours can be helpful, so you give them a little bit more time to notice the dynamic of what's happening. But run this test and practice being comfortable with the discomfort of not doing the things that you are impulsively kind of pushed to do in this dynamic, okay? You need to be practicing breathing through the discomfort of sitting with, okay, I'm not going to push them to do this. I'm not going to take over this task for them, even though I feel like it needs to be done, even though I really want them to do it. I'm going to hold back here. And then just observe. Notice if they stepped up. If they do, then that's promising. If they don't, then that might be a red flag. And we can go on to these feature steps. Next, after you've run the test, I want you to actually have a conversation with your partner about this. And how you have this conversation really makes a big difference. Okay, so try to start with I feel statements, talking about your own emotions, and not going into blame or criticism of your partner as much as you possibly can. Focus on making it about you two working on this issue as a team, you two versus the issue, and collaborating on a solution. You can try something like, I love you, but lately I feel like I've been doing a lot of the emotional work in the relationship, and that makes me feel really lonely, makes me feel really frustrated. So I wonder if we could work together to find a way for us to contribute more equally in the relationship moving forward. Or something like, hey, are you open to working with me as a team on this? The key here is to invite partnership, not slip into that criticism or blame that can make your partner pull away. And then let's talk about how you begin to break this pattern over time. Okay, so there's 5 steps that I would recommend. The first step is that you got to take ownership of this pattern. You got to recognize what you might be slipping into and how negative it can be for your relationship if you are doing more of that overfunctioning. So own the pattern and acknowledge that you are doing the overfunctioning in the first place. Step 2 is to set internal boundaries. Okay, remind yourself that you're not going to carry the emotional load just on your own. That's really important here, because the more you can set those internal boundaries and be firm about them, the more that will keep you from slipping into those behaviors that can be negative and taking over more of the emotional load. Step 3 is to practice doing less. Okay? Allow your partner the space and opportunity that they need to step up in the ways that you want them to. And that means that you need to practice sitting with the discomfort of what it's like to not do as much in those moments. Step 4 is to make sure that you're surrounded with people who support you, good friends, family, etc. People you can talk to and lean on for support. This is going to be hard. And step 5 is you need to practice having direct conversations with your partner. Again, using those I feel statements, but talking about how you're feeling in the relationship, the frustration that you feel, and be direct and firm about what you need from them and requests that you want to make of them. By inviting them to work together with you on this issue, you can begin to make change. It is possible. I've seen it before, but change won't happen overnight. It can take a little bit of time, so give your partner grace if they're not perfect right out of the gate. Remember that you both care about each other and about this relationship, and sometimes behavior change can take time. So approach it with compassion, but be firm about the things that you need in the end. The big takeaway here is that you're not broken, Because it's just a pattern that you fall into, and this happens all the time in relationships. It's a solvable issue. But it does take sitting with the discomfort of doing something a little bit different than your pattern. And it takes having hard conversations with your partner and setting expectations for them to step up in the ways that you're interested in. You deserve a relationship where both people show up equally. It's important for the longevity of a relationship and resentment not setting in. Let me know down in the comments, have you experienced this dynamic in your own relationship? How does it show up for you? Is there anything about this video that you still have questions about? I'd love to hear from you. And if this video resonated with you, check out some of my other videos on conflict and conflict avoidance. I think that'll be really helpful here. And like and subscribe to my channel if this video was helpful. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.